and welcome to your weekly Astro Forecast. I am Alam at 6 Silver Seals, and what follows is a forecast for the week beginning Monday, November 9th. Before we begin, please be advised that this is a general horoscope, and, as a result, is necessarily ambiguous. If you'd like one that is more specific and tailored to your natal chart, there are links in the description bar that will take you to our various social media feeds. Also included is a link to the 6 Silver Seals Patreon for those who'd like in-depth astrological guidance on a more regular basis, as well as getting one-day early access to all YouTube content. And of course, please remember that I am neither a doctor nor a therapist, and that this video is meant to constitute spiritual advice, not medical or psychological. Without any further ado, here's the week ahead. On Monday, November 9th, Venus will be opposite Mars. Venus is in Libra and Mars is still retrograde in Aries. And what a way to kick off the week than to throw a match into a powder keg. The reason that I say that is that Venus is always potent when it's opposite Mars, and vice versa is of course true as well. But both planets are in their domiciles right now, or signs that they rule, which makes this even more intensely the case. Specifically, what we're dealing with here is kind of an urge to tear things down and start over, and at the same time, try to nurture something new that is growing. And so basically what the feeling kind of is like, there is this, it feels like the instinct will be to tear away what already exists in favor of this new thing that is growing. However, we need to be a little bit more careful than that. This isn't like weeding a garden so the plants in it can grow. This is more like taking a rose bush that you've been caring for years in order to get it to flower in the beautiful way that it does, and tearing it out because you decide you like the wildflowers better that moved in last spring. It's not necessarily the wrong idea. Obviously, you can grow whatever you want to in your garden, but if they can coexist, why not let that play out and see how it goes? You don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, which there's a very serious risk of doing while these planets are in opposition. On Tuesday, November 10th, we have a couple of different things going on because the Sun will be trine Neptune retrograde from Scorpio to Pisces, and at the same time, Mercury is also going to be entering Scorpio. Now, these energies in conjunction aren't a lifting, but a piercing of the veil over our eyes or of illusions that we've been dazzled by, but it helps us come to a more intellectual understanding of our emotions, especially how they create as many problems as they solve depending on how we apply them. Normally, I would advise you under a trine to resist passivity because it's easy to just kind of sit around and let the energies do their work, even though you need to participate in order for them to do that. However, this is one where you don't need to move, but just because you're not moving doesn't mean that you should not be watching. On Thursday, November 12th, we get a little bit of a break on Wednesday, which is nice. Jupiter forms the last of its 3 conjunctions to Pluto in Capricorn this year. And it's the last time these planets are going to touch each other for a while. The next projected contact between them isn't until May of 2022. So, a year and a half from now, by which time the Sun will be in a position opposite the current one, which is a little bit interesting. But Jupiter is the planet of expansion, Pluto is the planet of transformation. And so what we have here is this kind of, it's expansion but with an eye to change. If we want to stick with garden metaphors, you planted a fruit tree under the first of these conjunctions, and then under the conjunction, the second one, when they were both retrograde, you were trimming its dead branches. Now, under this last one, it's kind of like the thing coming, it's bearing fruit now. You can pick its apples and reap the benefits of the work that you started under the very first conjunction of Jupiter to Pluto way back at the beginning of 2020. And we're going to get a lot of this full circle feeling as this aspect breaks apart because it's the next few other than Fridays. On November 13th, Mars will go direct in Aries, and a lot of the same energy that we had in July and August, when Mars was direct before, comes back to us. Lots of assertive, enterprising energy to be had for the rest of 2020, which is nice. However, there will also be the tendency to jump to conclusions, to speak without thinking, to act without careful consideration, And you need to try to rein those impulses in. Again, Mars is going to be the impulsive thing, and a lot of it is going to be kind of keeping him under wraps for the rest of the time that he's in Aries, which again is going to last until after we turn the calendar to 2021. So we come to the weekend. And on Saturday, November 14th, the Sun forms a sextile to the widening conjunction between Jupiter and Pluto. And it's weird because the Sun is doing a couple of different things here. It both kind of is injecting life into the energies of the conjunction as it widens, but it is also kind of igniting the separation, and Pluto's transformation is giving way to Jupiter's growth here as these solar rays come in on the sextile angle. All this gets complicated on Sunday when the new moon moves into play in Scorpio, bringing the moon into sextile Jupiter and Pluto as well as the Sun, and then Venus in Libra will also be squaring that conjunction as it begins to break apart. And it takes, hundreds of years for Pluto and Jupiter to be conjunct each other, and the new moon a day later or a few days later really kind of puts the rubber stamp on the end of the previous cycle of Jupiter-Pluto conjunct each other and starts a new one. That's the new moon, all about beginnings. But at this period where they are separating from the conjunction and Jupiter is getting to do its round of the horoscope on its way back to another conjunction with Pluto long after we all turn to dust, the Venusian square comes in there to also kind of help force them further apart, forcing a value shift and a mindset shift away from the transformative, away from the evolutionary, and towards the expansionary. We've done a lot of changing. 2022 has seriously put us through the ringer and made us different than we were when it started. Physically, maybe, but definitely emotionally, mentally, spiritually, we're all almost unrecognizable to the people we were on December 31st, 2019. And the Venusian square, doing this work of cracking this aspect apart with a month and a half left in 2020 is really, really starting to show us, all right, you've done all the changing you need to do. Now it's time to grow in this new place that you've been planted. So, as always, I do have a 3-card tarot spread to go with this for you. And this time we have the Two of Swords, Death, and the Nine of Cups. And this is really interesting because right away, looking at these, the feeling that I get from the Two of Swords is one of being at a crossroads. Right? There are two paths to take, and either one is fine, but each one closes the other off. You can really only do one of these things. You cannot walk down both roads. Not forever. You might be able to make it go for a time, but a separation is going to come. Whether this is a crossroads or a junction, eventually you are going to have to pick one road or the other. And that's the thing. I feel like the middle card, Death, is the representative, again, of all the transformation that we've been going through, that which, according to the week's astrology, is shortly coming to an end. So it's the crossroads of a transformation because now we're at the point in that metamorphosis where we decide, now that we've left the cocoon of what we used to be, we have to start moving in the direction of who we're going to be. However, wish fulfillment lies at the end of this path. Getting what you want lies at the end of this path. There's a sense with these cards that this is a long time in coming. And obviously, this astrology is centuries in the making for some of it. But we are at the precipice of becoming the ideal, living up to our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, our ambitions. But now we're at a critical juncture in that where we're being given one more chance to not necessarily turn aside from our path, but to refine it. These roads both lead in the direction of where you'd like to be, but you have to decide which of them runs the closest to where you're going. And that's where the tarot and the astrology together are kind of guiding us this week, is to look at these energies and move through them with an eye towards, all right, what stays and what goes? what is what is the opportunity cost, and which of those two things would I be comfortable with sacrificing on the altar of myself? But that is this week's Astro Forecast, and I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember that all patrons on Patreon get the one-day early access to this video as well as other content. And in the meantime, I have been Alam, and this is your Astro Forecast from Six Silver Seals. Be kind to yourselves and to one another.